Since its release, the Elgato Wave Mic Arm Low Profile has done everything but keep a low profile. It's become insanely popular. So today, let's see how it stacks up against the Rode PSA1, and then you can decide if you Elgato get one. And as you might know from many of my videos, the Rode PSA1 has been my mic boom arm of choice for many, many years. I love the Rode PSA1. But I'll be honest and say that sometimes this doesn't look super great, maybe it's not super practical, and that something like this might be a lot easier to work with. Now this is the Elgato low profile boom arm, and I know that it's not a direct competitor to the Rode because this is a traditional, taller boom arm, and this is a low profile one. And Elgato did release a taller traditional, I don't know what it's called, a traditional boom arm, but I don't have that one. I'm more interested in the functionality. What does a low profile arm get you that a regular arm doesn't, and vice versa? And so right off the bat, obviously having a low profile is the biggest feature. These types of boom arms, like the Rode PSA1 specifically, have been used in radio broadcasting and audio production for many, many, many years. And the goal with these is just to get the microphone as close to the speaker's face as possible. So it doesn't matter what angle it's coming from, it doesn't matter how high up it is, it's just to position the microphone in front of your face. But as video has become more and more popular, video podcasts are a thing, live streaming is a thing, and videos where people just want good quality audio is a thing. Now it's a problem if you have a microphone in front of your face the whole time. So you gotta find a way to not have your face blocked. You gotta preserve the moneymaker over here if you're doing online content and whatnot, and that's where a low profile arm can really save the day because it can position the mic where you want it, but it doesn't block your face, it doesn't block the camera, it doesn't block conversation with other people, so there's a lot of advantages here. There are also a few disadvantages, and we'll talk about those a little later. So I'm actually going to disassemble this arm, and then we will, I guess that's called disarming it, right? And then we will see what it has, how it comes together, and the different features of the Elgato low profile arm. So the arm itself is pretty simple. You get the base, and then you get the arm, and that's pretty much it, as is the case for pretty much every other arm. Now the whole thing is made out of metal. It's incredibly tough, incredibly durable. I really love that this clamp part that goes on your desk, it does what I like, which is it positions the weight of the arm on top of the desk. It doesn't hang off the desk like some of the cheaper arms do. I love that. It's also really big, so it's gonna grab onto your desk a lot, and it opens up quite wide. It also already comes with rubber on the top and bottom, so it's not going to damage the desk or the table or whatever you're mounting it to. The Rode PSA1 comes with a similar design that does have padding on the bottom here, but it doesn't have padding on the little metal part, and so I always put little felt pads to protect the bottom of the desk. But overall, I actually think this is a better clamp than this one. And if you've been looking at low profile boom arms for a while, this might look kind of familiar because they did, I think in a lot of ways, sort of take some design cues from OC White boom arms, which have a lot of low profile ones, but they're significantly more expensive. So instead of costing somewhere between $300 and $500, this is $100. I have never personally used an OC White boom arm, so I see what the difference is. However, I'm guessing that this $100 arm probably doesn't have the exact same quality and fit and finish as a $300 to $500 arm does, but it is still a very, very good boom arm. I've done videos in the past about cheap versus expensive boom arms where you can see, wow, the $13 ones are very different than the $100 ones. And I've also done videos where I compare $100 boom arms, and you see there's a lot more functionality and features in this price range. It's definitely worth the investment. The handle has that thing where if you're kind of like running up against the desk and it's bumping into it, you can pull it out and then reset it, so it's almost like a ratchet. If you're limited on space, it makes it easy to still use the boom arm. I really like that. The Rode has a simpler version of that, which is just this metal thing that goes back and forth. So if you run out of space, you can just turn it, and it's kind of the same concept, but I think the Elgato's implementation is actually a little more slick than the Rode's. And then the arm just goes in there, and you're pretty much done. The arm has these two main sections, and at the end, it has a ball mount, which is pretty sturdy. And what's interesting is this has a 1/4-20 mount on it. That's something I've not really seen on a lot of boom arms. Typically they have 3/8 inch mounts. But when you get the arm, it does come with two adapters. One is a 1/4-20 to 3/8 inch, and another one is something I've not seen before. It is a 1/4-20 to 5/8 inch. So right out of the box, you'll be able to use this arm maybe with one of these adapters with basically any microphone that you have. The Allen key can be used to adjust the tension at different points. There are At the joints here, there's tension, so this will adjust the spring tension. If you're using a light microphone, you can loosen it. If you're using a heavy microphone, you might want to tighten it. And then there's also little points here where you can adjust how easy it is to move around. So you can keep this very loose where it just kind of like slides very easily, or you can tighten it up where it's going to more firmly stay in place where you position it. There's a lot of flexibility here. My original plan was to get this boom arm and put it behind my computer monitor and then have it come out under my monitor. And then when I'm done, I can fold the microphone away because, get out of here. Look how small this thing folds up when it's not being used. So it can just totally be out of the way. It doesn't take up a lot of space. That's pretty awesome. And then I can just pull it back out under my monitor. But in the time since I pre-ordered this, it was back ordered and it finally got delivered. I ended up putting my monitor on an arm of its own, so now I don't really need this because I rearranged my desk and that original plan doesn't really work the way that I intended it to, but still pretty cool. If you take this ball mount off, there's a weird thing. I've never really seen this mount before. I don't know what else you could put on there. You kind of need this proprietary thing. Fortunately, this is very heavy duty and very strong, but the cool thing is it's going to let you position the mic at any angle. So if you have a shock mount like this that comes out from the back, you can position it that way. If you need your mic to go straight up, you can do that. And the bottom section moves left or right, the top section moves left or right, and the top section also moves up and down. So even though it is a low profile arm, it can actually still raise up pretty high. So that's kind of cool if you do need the microphone to be up higher. If you have this really low and you're trying to like use your keyboard or your mouse, it can easily get in the way. That's probably the biggest downside to a low profile boom arm, is that now it's another thing on your desk. And so by being able to raise this up, you then open up a lot of space there. But my question is, if you're raising it up, then it's no different than this. So I don't know if that undoes some of the benefit. One of the cool things though about this is each of the arms has these metal plates which are held on by magnets, and then in here is where you route the XLR cable. And it is a pretty strong boom arm, so I'm going to take the SM7B, which is a fairly heavy microphone, mount that on here, and you can see it has plenty of strength to position this microphone wherever I need it. I have a feeling that unless you have something completely insane like a kettlebell microphone or something, this arm will hold just about anything you got. And then to set up your cable, there's a little hole in the bottom of this section here. You can run your XLR connector, and then you can just plug it into your microphone. And basically it just goes in this little channel here. Now you've got a pretty slick, cable management system. I've noticed something that's really cool is this corner over here, this joint. When you turn it, the arm, it doesn't let the cable get tangled, which can happen with some other boom arms. However, as you can probably see right here, a thing that happens a lot is these little magnet channels. This is my biggest con of this arm, is it's very easy for you to move the arm in a way that's gonna pop these off. Depending on what mic you're using, the SM7B, this isn't as much of an issue. The AT2040 has a more traditional rear jack, and that means pretty much what just happened here is going to happen a lot. When you move the mic, it's going to pull up on the cable, which in turn could then pull up on these little covers. And it just sort of depends how you have your setup, what microphone you're using, how much of an issue that's going to be. But I can pretty much guarantee you, if you get this boom arm, you're going to have to deal with these covers popping off pretty much every time you use it. And you could wrap something around it to stop that from happening. But that doesn't look as cool or as slick as just the arm itself. It's not a big deal. It just means chances are when you position the arm, these might pop off from time to time and you just have to put them back on. That's the biggest drawback to this arm to me, is just that, because it's kind of annoying. Beyond that, the only other negative, which is not anything to do with this arm specifically, it's just low profile arms in general, is the fact that they do have the potential to get in the way of things depending on how you have them set up. If you're somebody who's going to be using like your laptop and a tablet and keyboard and mouse and you have this thing in the way, it's going to be difficult, maybe, potentially. It's all about how you set it up, whereas a traditional boom arm is not going to have that problem at all. So for example, let's connect the Rode PSA1. The PSA1 doesn't have easy internal routing. It is possible to route an XLR cable through here, but you basically have to take off the end of the cable, like unsolder it, run the cable through, and then resolder the connectors on the end, which isn't very difficult if you're someone who's comfortable with soldering, but it definitely doesn't make it easy to switch out your cables very often, and it's just more of a hassle than I would personally like to do. So I do the traditional thing of just using the little Velcro ties and running the cable along the boom arm. Now, in terms of build quality between these two boom arms, they're both pretty darn excellent. They're both gonna last a really long time. I do like that the Elgato just seems easier to adjust. You just use a little Allen key to adjust the friction. You can do the same thing on the Rode PSA1. If you ever notice that it's too strong or too like low, you can adjust this screw right here at the top, and that will change the spring tension for your microphone. It's not hard to do, but it's sort of harder to dial in. I found the Elgato to be super easy to dial in exactly how I wanted it. The Rode PSA1 has a more universal 3/8 inch mount up here that you can attach all kinds of other stuff to. The Elgato has this proprietary weird ball thing, which is fine as long as it doesn't break, and I don't think it will, but it's just sort of, it's not as modular or interchangeable as a traditional arm would be. This is as small as the PSA1 gets. And obviously the Elgato gets really, really small and compact and out of the way. So which one of those is better for you is going to depend. My least favorite thing about the PSA1 is this shape right here. Because what it does is it means if you try to turn this vertically, you can't make it perfectly vertical. Because this part has like a teardrop shape to it, and you can't get it totally vertical. What you can do with the PSA1 is take this little locking nut off, and then it gives you more room to position the mount so that it's vertical, but it also then doesn't give you that much space to actually mount a microphone on it. So I've noticed when I've done this, the microphone tends to wobble and not stay on as securely as it should. So this has been very frustrating, and the reason I'm bringing that up, if we look at the Elgato arm and this ball mount, it's very easy to position something vertically, which is important on a low boom arm, but also important if you're using a microphone like the SM7B or the Super 55, where your mount and your connector are kind of right next to each other. To use the Super 55 on the PSA1 and make it so I can have it like this in front of me, I had to make this little adapter that has like 9 other adapters. It's a small rig ball mount. What is this? This is a 3/8 to 5/8 adapter, a 5/8 to 1/4-20 adapter, a 1/4-20 to 1/4-20 into the small rig, into a 1/4-20 to 3/8, into a 3/8 to a 5/8. It's a lot of adapters just to basically let me position the microphone vertically in a way that doesn't block the XLR connector. So here's what I would have to do is Shure makes these little extension tubes. Now I've got my Super 55 mounted vertically. I can use this same tube on the PSA1, but like I said, I can't get it vertical without all those adapters. It's always gonna come out at like a weird angle. If you're using a mic like the Super 55 or the 55SH, something that has this kind of connector, I do think it's going to be significantly easier to position how you want it using this boom arm than a PSA1, because really these are made to stand on vertical mic stands, not boom arms, so it's always a little funky when you're trying to do this, but this works pretty well. So I know it's incredibly unsatisfying sometimes when I do a review or a comparison and I say, yeah, either one is good, you can't really go wrong either way, but it's true. They're just different. If you need something that's going to be low, maybe with a little more angular versatility when it comes to actually mounting your mic, the Elgato is the way to go. If you just want simple, reliable, easy, the Rode PSA1 is tried and true. You can't go wrong with that one. The PSA1 has more traditional mount here with the 3/8 inch. The Elgato has its proprietary thing. The Elgato also has this super cool magnet feature, but also this super annoying feature that hides the cables, but also does not hide your frustration with the cables from time to time. And of course, like I said, a lot of it has to do with what you're going to be doing in front of the microphone. Do you need a lot of hand space? If so, the low profile arm is probably going to get in the way and get kind of annoying, whereas the PSA1 can easily be positioned to still let you have lots of room for activities. Now, much like the most popular store in any mall during the early 2000s, boom arms are a hot topic. So if you want to check out some more reviews and comparisons to arm yourself with the best arm, check out these videos right over here.